Today's talk is going to be about people with money. Now, although Malawi is one of the poorest countries in the world, there are people with money. First of all, I think it's important and perhaps quite surprising to say that the idea of a middle class in Malawi is quite a new thing. Until fairly recently, the middle class jobs, executives and at that kind of level, were mostly white people under the colonial government. And even when Malawi gained independence, quite a lot of companies, businesses, and so on retained a lot of their staff. And gradually over the years, as those people went home or retired, they were replaced with Malawians. So the idea of there being a Malawian middle class is quite a new thing, and it's changing the way that society is structured in towns and cities, because now there are people who are more comfortably off and who can afford to do those things that middle class people do. Having a car, for example, and having a middle class lifestyle with some leisure time, the possibility of a holiday and so on. All these things are quite new in Malawi, and they are restricted to a very small number of people in the cities and larger towns, but increasingly a presence. Those people have jobs like working in banks and insurance companies, working as higher level civil servants, those kind of things. And of course, some people who have set up a business which is a bit more successful, and the money is a bit more regular and at a higher level. Some of those people now are building a house out of town. Again, something very new, because if you don't have a car, you can't do that. So there are towns around Lilongwe, around Blantyre and so on, where people with a bit of money are buying a piece of land where it's cheaper, and they're building their own house and they're commuting into town for work. Quite a new lifestyle, and quite a new thing here in Malawi. But of course, there are people with very serious money as well. Where does the serious money come from? Well, business mostly, and that business might well be a business that has been going for a long time and has been built up over generations. A lot of those businesses are Indian Malawian, and those Indian Malawians came first of all in the days of the colonial government. Many of the first Indian people that came here came to set up shops for the British, and they came because they were part of the British Empire system from India originally, having worked with the British government in India. And they came here and stayed. Many of them have been here for generations. They own quite a lot of the biggest businesses in Malawi. There are also a number of white people who are still here from colonial times, descendants of people that came and bought land and set up, for example, tea growing plantation, coffee growing plantation, often based on farming, other things as well, but some of those families are still here. They still have the same land, they still have the same business, doing the same things as their parents and grandparents were doing. There's also, of course, tourist infrastructure. Not a lot in Malawi compared to other very touristic places, but there are a number of lodges and large hotels. The large hotels are corporate places, they're corporately owned. The lodges are mostly white owned, and there are always, of course, a lot of question marks about the corporate business sector and how they do their work. There's also quite a lot of questions about why are most of the lodges owned by white people still in Malawi. And I think one of the answers to that is that established people with money may have their own ways of doing things which may not be honest, and there may well be corruption involved in some of these businesses and some of these ventures. But also there is the issue of startup capital. Lots of Malawians would like to start bigger businesses. Lots of Malawians would like to own a lodge or to do any number of other things, but they don't have startup capital. And if you want to set up something that has a chance of surviving and flourishing and working, you have to set it up at a decent level with a decent amount of startup capital. And if you don't have that, you're going to be priced out of the market by people who do. And if some white people come along who have their money in Europe, that money is going to stretch a lot further than Malawian money, and they may well be able to afford to buy up a lodge or build a lodge, whereas a lot of Malawians would not have the capital to do it. We'll say more about money and the quandary of Malawian money in another episode. There are some super rich people in Malawi, a very, very, very small number, but they exist. There is a Porsche that you can see driving around Blantyre every now and again, very new and shiny. There are some families who go off to 5 or 6 different holidays during the school holiday. They're off to England and France and Dubai and the Seychelles and all in one holiday. There are some super rich people. It's rare to have that kind of money in Malawi. And we have the same situation here as in most other countries. The government is not able or willing to properly tax those people. There is a progressive income tax system here where people earning more pay more on the top end of what they earn, but that stops at a high salary, but not a salary which would affect the super rich who are able to keep pretty much all of their money. There's also a major problem of forex leakage here, that many people send their money out of the country, which is completely illegal, but they do it anyway. There have been a number of pieces of investigative journalism recently looking at some of those issues and where are the places that are sending the money out, how do these people manage to do this, and billions, trillions are being sent out of Malawi every year, according to those reports. and that money is desperately needed inside the country, of course. So that's the situation, that's the position with money. And we'll return to the subject of money in the next talk tomorrow.